Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of Futurescapes. So we're talking about the future of finance today. My name is Rich Bradbury. The nature of finance has changed. What you once knew as money is being decentralized, creating new currencies that would dictate the economy of the future. I'll be speaking to industry leaders and people in the know about what this diversification of value means for businesses, if crypto is truly the way forward, and how we could have more opportunities to find wealth than ever before. We'll be talking and breaking down some of that techno babble that some of us might be a little bit scared of. Of course, I am speaking with people in the know, and I want to welcome my first speaker to the show. I've got Wai Hun, the co-founder and CEO of JurisTech. Hi there, Wai Hun.
Hi, Richard.
How are you
Glad to be
doing?
joining. I'm
I'm,
good at
I'm
home, as you
glad that
can
you.
see.
I can see that. Yes, welcome. I've also got David Liew, the general manager of Southeast Asia over at Luno. Hi, David.
Hi, Richard. Hi, Wai Hun. Glad to be
Thanks
here.
for joining us, David. And
Thanks
I've
for
got
having
Han
me.
Liew. He's the co-founder and director for RinggitPlus. Hi there, Han Liew.
Hi, Richard. Good afternoon.
Are we all doing
Hi,
okay then?
We're doing good, I guess. Everyone's staying
Okay.
safe, I hope.
So as I said to people earlier on, I want to try and break down some of this techno babble that some of us might have been experiencing. And I'm going to start off with the question that's fairly broad, but I also want to tell people who are just tuning in now that if you do have any questions, post them in the comments below and we'll try to get to them as and when we can. We've got around 45 minutes, and depending on how long this goes, we might go a little bit longer. But a fairly broad question. Let's start off with something interesting. What have been some of the most surprising or, I guess, unexpected trends in digital finance over the last 18 months? Wai Hun, let's hear from you first.
Well, I get to be chosen first. Okay. Okay. I think the recent pandemic situation, all right, you see that there is an acceleration of use of the mobile phones for all of our transactions and all that. And there's actually huge growth in terms of digital data. So we have been proponents of AI for a very long time, our company. And recently we've seen a huge surge in terms of demand. And we have people asking for it from overseas as well, in which they are saying that how can we make use of the data to decide who to give credit to, how do we contextualize data and things like that. So that's one, the keen interest in AI. Secondly, of course, is that we are seeing endpoint producers, that means non-finance people, saying that they want to now provide finance. We have a lot of inquiries from different people, and they might be, example, even for the digital banking, you can see that property, people that are, for us, we have people that are selling specialty goods and they find difficulty selling these goods. They say, can I embed finance? And can I now provide finance? So that's an interesting trend that we see. Third, of course, is that because of Bank Negara, promoting digital banking, so we are seeing that there's a lot of keen interest to serve the underserved. Okay, why is this a change? It's because a lot of times we actually offer software to financial institutions. They're always saying that, okay, we want to give to the people who are safe, they have credit, whom we know can pay us. But these digital bank players is different. They'll say that, how do we go to these people whom we have no idea whether they can actually pay us back and offer microfinancing? Then the fourth thing that I've seen is the rise of BNPL players. It's a new trend that's hitting the market, and I think that it will change the way we look at what we call alternative credit.
They're
You don't have to
ubiquitous
be a
right
lender
now.
to get it. Yes,
So many
correct.
right now. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks for that. Han Liew, let's hear from you next.
Oh, in terms of unexpected or surprising trends that we've seen, I think I can boil it down to a couple, really, that I can see. The first one, unexpected trend, nationwide training or adoption of QR code-based payments. I think I remember a time in 2019 when many people told me, hey, you know what, QR code-based payments, for example, in China, it's not going to happen here. We don't have that kind of behavior in Malaysia. But I think between E29 and the pandemic, and pretty much every single Malaysian getting training in how to scan a QR code has totally turned that on its head, right? Basically, nationwide UI and UX training for Malaysians. So that's the first thing. I think nationwide adoption of kind of QR code based, not just payments but transactions. and doing things with QR codes. And the other unexpected thing, I guess, is a tremendous adoption of digital acquisition by financial services, probably with the exception of banks, right? So pretty much complete, for example, you can get a complete insurance package across anything you can think of online today. You can do trading online, online fund management. The only thing you can't seem to get easily is an online loan. So that's kind of, banks dropped the ball on that one. So I guess that's surprising. So again, number one, QR code based payments, nationwide QR code training. Second, tremendous adoption for digital customers by non-bank financials.
Okay, I'm going to move on to David over at Luno. What are some of the most surprising or unexpected trends in digital finance in the last 18 months? What about from you guys?
Yeah, on the crypto space, a lot of stuff are unexpected. We didn't expect the market to gain interest in cryptocurrencies so quickly. So from our side, from the fact that the way our business has grown over the past, less than 2 years, right after we got an approval from Securities Commission, we've seen a tremendous increase in people's willingness to invest in cryptocurrency.
Right.
We've done a survey recently, and we surveyed 1,000 Malaysians across the whole of Malaysia, including Sabah and Sarawak, and we discovered that 62% of Malaysians are actually open to invest in cryptocurrency. Now that is really unexpected from our perspective, because coming from where we are, fintech alone as a subject is really very complex. Crypto falls a smaller segment of the fintech space, so it's very complex as a topic. To see that interest growing tremendously from where we came from a few years ago has been really, really encouraging for us. The surprise for us for the year is the global adoption of DeFi. It's a heavy topic, but DeFi has been something that we didn't expect to gain traction so quickly. The increase of demand in NFT as well, which basically is a crypto that's pegged against a digital art. That has also gained tremendous traction globally. So that is something that definitely is a surprise to us.
I think NFT was the one that really surprised me for the last 18 months. I mean, you saw small adoption in some places, and then of course when Beeple managed to sell his piece of artwork there, and it just went absolutely crazy. It seemed that everybody wanted to get in on the NFT space, and there were websites opening up, selling them, and helping you trade them all over the place. It was really interesting to watch, and that kind of marketplace is still growing very, very rapidly right now, isn't it? Okay, let's move on to something else then. And we've kind of touched a little bit about it, but in terms of digital finance, particularly here in Malaysia, how would you rank it? Is the market ripe enough, and are Malaysians aware enough of some of these new trends? Han Liew, let's talk with you first.
Yeah, thanks. In terms of awareness, I think from what we've seen, clearly awareness is now and has been for many months now an all-time high in terms of having to transact digitally for my financial services, right? So, the drivers for that were, smartphone penetration was already in the high 90s. And over the last 18 months, kind of the entry into digital finance for most people here has been through the e-wallet, and e-wallet adoption rates are in a similar kind of range now, low 90%. Right. But the challenge is not so much consumers. I think if you put a screen in front of a consumer and tell them you can get financial services there, they'll take it, right? So awareness is there. You offer it to them. But I think going back to my earlier point, many issuers themselves are not ready, right? Many of the large banks, insurance companies, investment houses are not ready to offer that kind of solutions. And then you've got kind of the other players trying to race and catch up to product offerings. So the e-wallets, what did Wai Hun say earlier? Non-bank players trying to say, okay, since you guys are not doing this, we need to offer something, because we've got consumers, they want to transact through the screen for financial services, and we just don't have the products, so we can get them. And then on the other side, the product providers are not realizing this. So there's a little bit of gap there. So that's the kind of two things I would say.
Wai Hun?
I think there's definitely an uptick in terms of like awareness of digital finance. I think because I think I agree with Han, that like maybe I mean, they will survey that say 66% of the people that Malaysians are already interested in digital banking,
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
But I think I also agree that actually it's the providers themselves that the awareness is there, but of course because of compliance, legal, going through all the regulatory hurdles, even though banks say that they're interested in cloud computing and all those things, it's that compliance and everything that actually is holding them back maybe a bit. So you can see like for example for crypto currency players, I just saw news recently, that some of these cryptocurrencies in US, they are starting to provide loans and interest on cryptocurrency, but they are not regulated like the bankers are, which will give them an advantage. So even if the awareness is here, is whether the providers are actually ready to say that, yeah, we are ready to ride on this, this curve that we are in.
Okay. David, you got anything to add?
Yeah, just to add on what Wai Hun has said, I think the awareness is there.
Yeah.
I suspect the understanding is not there. People have heard about cryptocurrency in general. They know that there's this new sexy financial service that's built out of a blockchain, going crazy in popularity overseas. But when you ask the average person on the ground, okay, what does it mean, right? How does it work? What are the mechanics? How do they provide such interest or benefits to you on the street? 99% I can bet that they don't know, which is why I think education still plays a key role. And it has to happen before you see an increase in adoption of these new technologies in Malaysia.
I mean, full disclosure, I've been involved with cryptocurrency since 2017, and sometimes when I talk about it, I feel like a bit of an evangelist. And it can be a very divisive topic as well. Some people see it, they see it as something that they should be scared of and worried about. Whilst at the other end of the spectrum, you have people saying, how do I get into this early, and is it still early to be able to get involved with cryptocurrency and the like? But anyway, let's move on to something. I want to talk about SMEs and whether or not you think local business and SME scene has adapted to some of these new digital trends in the best way, or could it have been better? Could they have done things a little bit better? Wai Hun?
Okay, I would say that there's actually a lot of anecdotal evidence, right, that I actually have from my friends, entrepreneurs alike, right, that are running SMEs, even from my neighborhood and all that. That people need to go to the office. Let me explain why. Because unlike us, we are more like tech players, right? With the minute the pandemic hit, our HR system is actually online. Our accounting system is actually cloud-based, so no one needs to go to the office to actually make any payments. Whereas we actually do sell to like lawyers and some other companies, and most of the time we didn't receive payment because they're not in the office. So apparently they cannot do any work unless they go to the office. So I think if SMEs definitely need to up their game in terms of, if there's a lockdown, or even now it's a new norm. How would they actually operate and actually pivot? If not, they can't survive. And which explains the reason why, since the first MCO, 100,000 companies have ceased operation, and thousands of SMEs are actually shutting down because they really figure out how to navigate this era. The era has changed.
I mean, that's something that has echoed throughout the enterprise shows that we've done over the past 18 months. Go digital, make yourselves digital, get online, do whatever you can to make yourselves aware of all of this stuff. Han, Liew, have you got anything more to add to that about these SMEs and about how they could have done things better?
Yeah, just one thing to add to what Wai Hun mentioned, which is I think what you find is that survival breeds innovation, right?
Right.
The need to survive, right? I think many had absolutely no choice, right? So, if you were in food and beverage industry, you had to pivot to food delivery. If you were in the retail space, you had to pivot to having an e-commerce, m-commerce, social commerce channel, right? If you were in kind of just the services industry, you had to pivot quickly, right? How do I do digital sales? How do I prospect digitally? How do I manage clients digitally? How do I make payments digitally? And without doing all that, you just wouldn't survive. And I think the silver lining of all this is that many who have survived have started to do this and do this in a big way, right? And coming out of a pandemic, it's just something that it's basically accelerated, digital adoption of not just financial services, but in general in SMEs. Like it's just leapt us forward 5-10 years, right? And I think that's sad to see so many had not survived, right? But the silver lining is that those that did, I think, are going to come out of it really, really good, right? And I think where it could have been better, more government support to make sure, and I just don't say just more, easier government support to make sure the people that found it difficult to pivot, people that found it challenging to do so, had some place to easily do it, right? Okay, a one-stop center, go here. MDEC did their best. So many people could have done more across various agencies to make sure the 10-20% of people who didn't survive could have survived, right? I think that was the main key.
Yep. David, I saw you smiling there. What have you got to add, my friend?
No, I think Wai Hun and Han sum it up really, really well. If you talk about whether they adapt to the latest trends and innovations in crypto, I don't think so. SME hasn't. I think they're still struggling to digitize their business. That would be an important first step. But I think to add on what they said, right? There are also a lot of opportunities once digitize their business, because that also means that in terms of accessing talent, managing a business, lowering costs, accessing capital, which will be a key theme in cryptocurrency in the next few years, simply by the fact that this government has wants to regulate capital and fundraising in cryptocurrency, that will actually unlock new opportunities for SMEs who have already digitized to go into this space, find opportunities to raise capital to expand the business. So that's probably that.
Okay. I think we're going to touch a little bit more on cryptocurrency in just a few minutes, David. David, you were just breaking up a little bit there, my friend. I just want to run back and look at a different question, a point that you mentioned there, Han Liew. You did mention a moment ago about how there are companies that have been trying to help out, or the government has been trying to help out in one way or another. But other than that, what do you think have been some of the stumbling blocks locally when it comes to the adoption, the awareness of digital finance and new trends within this industry? Because we know there's been quite a few. But can you just highlight a few, please?
Yeah, sure. I think, I kind of alluded to a couple of those things earlier, but I'll just say it explicitly now, right? The first kind of stumbling block to mass adoption, despite the awareness, has been issuers, right? For example, you can now make instant payments, right, digitally, and you can do that now. You can do that across bank and e-wallets, no issue. But can you get an instant loan in your bank account right now from one of the large banks? You can't, right? It's a key product that people and businesses need to just run their lives, run their businesses, right? Can you get instant insurance cover across any insurance policies from the big three insurers in Malaysia? Difficult, right? It's possible with some of the smaller ones who have adapted. With the big ones that cover most Malaysians, very difficult, right? Can you get instant online trading from one of the big 5 brokers, stock trading brokers in Malaysia? Difficult, right? You can get it from the smaller ones, instant account trading. You can get it from our friends on the cryptocurrency space for digital assets, right? No problem, right? But you think about it, like these guys across these 3 segments have 70-80% coverage of Malaysians, right? Yet these services, while available with the smaller players and not always, but sometimes available to smaller players, they're not available for a vast majority of Malaysians who actually want these services. So issuers being the big stumbling block, if you ask me. Second is, Wai Hun mentioned it earlier, but it's regulations, right? Which is the regulators themselves are reasonably forward-looking. I think the 3 of us will attest to that being regulated in some form by both Bank Negara or the SC. But the regulations are frequently, things which were written 10, 20, 50 years ago, and they are very rules-based rather than being principles-based. So the regulators, while being very adaptive, and innovative, right, are hamstrung by their own regulations. So that needs to be kind of looked into if we want to really ramp up not just awareness, but adoption.
Right. Wai Hun, you kind of alluded to it earlier on about the banks, them being far behind. And let's be honest, the problem with that is, the banks have been established for so long, doing the things that they do it in the way that they do it for so long, that any kind of change within that banking industry, the traditional banking industry, to put it mildly, will be glacial, in the way in which it will change things. Do you agree with that? And do you think that's one of the major stumbling blocks, like Han Liew has said?
No, I see that. I won't say that they are very far behind, right? Because I would say that there has been so much interest in the banks, right, in terms of all this new technology, digital transformation. They've been creating teams of people, but what's holding them back is not really the regulators. Sometimes it's the regulators, I would say, because the policy makers, right? For example, now we have like EKYC. We are saying that maybe you can go on the cloud, etc. But the banks themselves, their own internal processes, their own internal regulations, they need to cover one by one to say, what is it that I'm not compliant on. So there's actually so many things for them to do before they move forward. And it's not so much about the technology, it's about what they're allowed and not allowed to do, what is safe and not safe to be done. So
Right.
to make that happen, it means that when you create teams of people for innovation, the teams of guys that's inside there needs to have the legal compliance, risk guys, and all those things, because the finance industry is a highly regulated industry. That's
Right.
the only reason why sometimes you see that they may take time to do some things.
Okay, which brings me nicely along to something I want to ask David, and of course for a while cryptocurrency was it was going to be accepted, and then it wasn't going to be accepted. It was going to be regulated. It wasn't going to be regulated. We weren't sure how things were going to happen here in Malaysia for quite some time, and we've heard a lot about cryptocurrency, obviously over the last 12 months, with some peaks and valleys along the way. How important is it for both customers and businesses now to be aware and educated, do you think, about crypto at this point? And this goes across the board. David?
Yep. So I think definitely that's an important one. Sorry, I think connection is not that great. Okay, I'll give it a go. It's an important one, definitely. I think being aware of the latest happenings in the crypto space allow them to discover opportunities that otherwise other businesses don't have, and that adds on to their competitive advantage. Just by the mere fact that if you're a tech company, knowing about the IEO regulation, for example, by the SC, gives you an additional option to go to the market and do alternative fundraising that will allow you to fuel your business tremendously, right? From a regular perspective, definitely they want to happen because that also creates jobs. That draws FDI as well, because the beauty of crypto is you can raise money from anywhere around the world for as long as someone can send in the crypto currency directly to your wallet over the internet. So I think understanding that space, understanding that opportunity will really unlock these things and fuel your growth. For customers as well, is really obviously at this point in time discovering new opportunities for wealth. People invest in so many different things. But what I see is those who have discovered this opportunity early on back in 2015, 2017 has really reaped financial benefits right now. And they're still continuously doing so with new technologies being innovated and created. So, educate yourself early, understand the space. You really, really find yourself in a better side of the field in 3 years' time.
Just a reminder, folks, if you do have any questions for us, for Wai Hun, for Han Liew, and for David, please do drop them in the comments below, and we'll try to get through them as and when we can. Han Liew, just to pick up on that, awareness of crypto. How aware have you been, over the last year or so, or how have things changed for you over the last year or so? Was it something that you kind of knew about but didn't have a huge interest in? And has that changed over the last year or so? Wai Hun, we'll come to you with this as well in a few minutes.
Personally, it's been about a year that I've been fairly involved, mainly professionally, right? Because here at RinggitPlus, we do have a capital markets business in financial planning, so we do have a fiduciary responsibility to at least research this asset class, right? That for investors, it is an asset class, and how it behaves, how it interacts with other asset classes. And for me, what I can say, as digital financial planners here in Malaysia, the majority of investors are asking. So as kind of investment experts, you need to be prepared, right? So it's a kind of a niche group of people I'm speaking to. But if you're in the investment space, if you're in the capital market space and you don't know enough about crypto to be able to make classical market directions for your investors, and you're not providing your duty of care to that investor, right? Because then you're either making you lose out, or you're not maximizing the potential of your investor portfolio, right? And the SC has already came out and said last year, crypto assets are securities, which means you trade them like any you would do a stock here in Malaysia, right? Or a bond, right? So for me, it's extremely important to understand return volatility, as well as the technological salient points, right? How blockchain works, why it works, what advantages, disadvantages, etc. I think many in the traditional capital markets world needs to wake up and look at the numbers rather than the headlights. That's the word to use.
Okay, Wai Hun?
Okay, I will say one thing when it's not so much for me, since I'm providing a lot of tech, right? Not so much about crypto, but about blockchain, which is the tech behind the crypto.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see, I think more than 2 years back, I had like CEOs of banks coming to me and say that, okay, can your loan originations be on blockchain? I mean, the hype was like, it was so big that everybody started talking about it. So that's when we need to go and learn about blockchain, but also learn about the impact of how it can probably disintermediate not just banks, but you know that now so many of the, I think more than 80% of a lot of the banks in the world, they are looking at this central bank digital currency, which is actually based on blockchain, and of course different type of cryptocurrency, which is actually pegged to their the currency of the country, right? So with China already piloting it, so you can see that the huge impact of what blockchain can do to actually disintermediate how we are going to approach digital finance in the future is actually huge. And that's where we are actually studying what are the potential impact. And I think recently you talked about NFTs, right?
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things is that, my daughter, she plays this game called Roblox. I do not know whether you guys are familiar or not. And then for her birthday, I bought her Robux. Okay, so this Robux means that she has coins that she can trade. It is not crypto, but she used it just to change her costume, her hair. And then I was thinking, I gave you so much money just to change something that's of no value. There's no power in it, but apparently because of that change, she actually got so many friends and all that. And now, if you look at all these multiverse and all these gamers, they are trading and playing with NFTs. So which means that there's so much potential, right, for us to look at the digital world in a different way because of blockchain and what crypto can bring, in terms of peer-to-peer exchanges.
In some ways, I feel like going back to 2017 and coming back to some of my friends and colleagues and saying, I told you so. But, that's by the by. We do have a question from somebody who's tuned in as well. And this is from Adila. And it kind of addresses something that I wanted to ask anyway. Is there any possibility of Malaysian consumers to start using crypto as a tool of online payment in e-commerce services? Who wants to pick that one up?
I can go first.
Please.
We get a lot of these questions, even from our own customers. I think the straight answer is no. I don't think so. Not at this point in time. Not yet. Simply because most people who buy or invest in cryptocurrency see it as a form of investment. The price volatility as well doesn't allow it to be a stable means of payment or value of exchange. But that might change. We see some new private stable coins popular overseas. I don't think they're going to be enabled by Bank Negara for monetary policy reasons, but that might change again when there are better use cases or demand for it in Malaysia.
Which is interesting because that also leads on to my next question about, there's so much happening in that space. What can the government be doing to help encourage players within that space, to grow, to learn, to expand? Is it enabling things like more stable coins or is it something else?
Personally,
David,
to me,
let's pick up with,
Yeah, sure. I think personally to me, the government need to always start with the talent pool. We still lack talents in the blockchain space. Just to find a blockchain developer who understands unique programming languages in popular cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum that has their own programming language called Solidity, that is just really tough. So I think what government can do is first to look into this, encourage education and learning on building up talent pool for the cryptocurrency and the blockchain space, and then perhaps they can look into figuring out some sort of financial incentives to incentivize or invite global companies to set up shop here in Malaysia. Just to give an example, Luno is here in Malaysia, but if you look at the top cryptocurrency players globally, the likes of Coinbase, these guys are all in Singapore.
Yeah.
And I think talent pool plays a big part of that. And I think there's obviously a lot more that they can do as well to get these guys in, which would then also create opportunities for the development of this very unique space, same way as we see in the US.
I've got a question from Frida that's just come in. The other challenge with the larger institutions is staying ahead of the game because of legacy systems when it comes to fintech. It's also moving very fast. How far can they really plan, and what should they be looking at first? Let's take that with you, Han Liew.
Yeah, I think the best way I describe it is you talk about legacy players. I'm talking about banks, insurance companies in terms of digital finance. In fact, banks and insurance companies were the first kind of tech players, right, in Malaysia, right? They were the first in the 60s to bring around new technologies, right? For example, anecdotally, my mom was a systems analyst at a bank in the kind of late early 80s, and they had the most advanced systems that you think of, right? And so they were the tech players of the time. So for me, if banks were just to go back to, okay, how did I run my business previously? There's no way to run it without advanced technologies, right? There was no way to offer great services to my customers, and just go back to that first principle of why I was successful as a bank, not just because I gave out loans and I took deposits, but because I could do it at scale with the systems that I had. I think if all legacy players would go back to that and not worry too much about, okay, I had those systems, I want to keep those systems, and think about what made you successful, what made you a successful financial services company, and apply that to this current digital world, which is, okay, what do I need to be successful in a digital world? I need to be where my consumers are, mobile first. I need to be where they're investing, cryptocurrencies. I need to be where they're transacting, right? And I think building technologies that do that, similar to how they built, branch technologies to service people in branches, I think that's kind of the way to go about it, rather than thinking, I just need to compete, I need to compete. I think that's not the way that they're going to succeed.
Wai Hun, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think banks need to separate between systems of records and systems of innovation. When it comes to systems of innovation, they can't let all these innovations go through the same type of compliance regulation as the same systems of records. And similarly, they need to realize that when it comes to digital vision, once they have a bold digital vision, it may take time for them to actually realize the benefits. So if what they want is ROI on day month 5, they're not going to get that. But if they are not investing now for the future, in maybe 3 years' time, they'll become irrelevant. So they need to look at the impact of that technology as well. And you see, the problem with banks that when they want to buy any type of systems, and let's say it costs more than a few million ringgit, it will take them at least a year. They need to come with a budget. They need to come with a request for proposal, RFP, POC, negotiation. Meanwhile, a new fintech just came in and said, whoops, it's ready in 1 month. Meanwhile, they're still evaluating. That's the reason why you cannot afford to let these systems of innovation go through the same process as your system of records. So...
Okay. We've got a few more questions that are coming in, but they're all crypto related. I want to just move away from that just for a moment and have a look at something that was, recently, the 12th Malaysia Plan. Do you see anything recently announced in the 12th Malaysia Plan that could, boost efforts for SMEs, could boost efforts for, cryptocurrency players? Han, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think the 12th Malaysia Plan is still kind of in its kind of developmental phase. I think in terms of the industry, what's probably more relevant is the Capital Markets Master Plan 3 that the SE came out with about a week ago or so, and the upcoming kind of financial sector blueprint from Bank Negara in 2022. I think those two will be the two drivers of our industry in terms of digital adoption, cryptocurrency as not just a security, but as more things in our economy, cyber risk, RegTech, etc. Those will be the things that drive our industry in terms of digital finance. So the capital markets master plan, I think it's the third one, and the financial sector blueprint 2022 for 5 years, right? In terms of the 12 Malaysia plan, I think the key about making all this work and successful is a little bit about what David said earlier, which is capital and talent. Once you fix those two things, we are a reasonably okay country for jurisdiction for business. We're quite reasonably business friendly, but we need policies which drive capital in, and we need policies which develop Malaysia as a place for that kind of talent, developers, project creators, entrepreneurs. So I think that's kind of, in short, my answer to that.
Thanks for that. Wai Hun, you're nodding away there. What else have you got to add?
No, I would say as part of the 12 Malaysian plan, right? I mean, there's few things that we're looking at. One is increasing the purchasing power. The other one is environmental sustainability, which I really like because nowadays we really need to focus on ESG and sustainability. Third one is actually social re-engineering, which is narrowing the existing socio-economic disparities. So that's why I really welcome what Bank Negara is doing in terms of bringing these digital banks and telling them their mandate is to serve the underserved. Because there's so many micro SMEs perishing because of the pandemic, we need to give them a chance. And one of the best ways to give them a chance is giving them loans and capital so that they can actually operate without giving them too much of a burden of repayment. And that's where I think we are on the right track once this is in place.
Okay. David, let's hear from you.
So the interesting thing is blockchain is only mentioned twice in the 12th Malaysia plan. With
Is
zero
that a good or
mention
a bad
on,
thing?
I suppose it's probably a little bit too niche to be mentioned in the 12th Malaysia plan because digital economy can mean so many different things, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, I think rightfully pointed by Hann Liew, there are efforts by financial regulators in Malaysia who are already taking the necessary steps to enable this economy. So as I mentioned, there is the IEO space. The SC has put in regulations in place. They are currently assessing, IEO applicants. What that means is that once they approve these guys, there will be companies in Malaysia that can provide the services of fundraising to SMEs and startups who want to raise these funds in cryptocurrency. So I think with all these things coming in, and obviously if the government can continue its effort to boost the talent pool, consider putting financial incentives to attract more foreign direct investments, especially the global crypto players. These guys always look at Singapore first, but we're not too bad either, right? If they can do that, then I think we'll be in the right path to succeed.
Okay, there's a question here, and I want to talk about this because I think this is super important. Our thoughts on this cybersecurity standards here in Malaysia, and it's only within the last couple of weeks we've seen alleged breaches across the country from different departments, whether they're public or whether they're private or not. Where are we in terms of international standards of our cybersecurity? And should that matter in this topic that we're talking about today? Should it matter to things like fintech if we're storing things on blockchain technology? And if we're not, what do we need to worry about? Hann Liew, let's hear from you first.
No, great point you pointed out because it's been in the news the past week. Breaches at the public sector, big ones. Private sector breaches happen all the time. Not as much as you think in terms of financial services companies because they're constantly assessed for cybersecurity risks. I'm talking more about big corporates who hold customer data who may not have that kind of regulator like Bank Negara or SC. But in terms of actually financial services and capital markets players, pretty okay, not too bad, right? In terms of the quality of cybersecurity. It's really the kind of public sector which does not have similar regulators. And likewise, the large corporates who happen to deal with customers and hold customer data. And this all needs to be standardized, right? So everyone needs to be brought up to that level that is being put on banks, insurance companies, investment management houses about holding account data because everything is going to be a little bit more open. Services are going to be a lot more interconnected. In order to transact with companies, you're likely going to be transacting with not just with one, but in a kind of open data environment with many, which means everybody needs to be brought up to at least that similar standard that's being expected in the financial services industry. So the real question then is, how can we do that without impeding progress, without impeding innovation? Because we discussed kind of over the last half an hour, excessive regulations may impede innovation, and then you start impeding people who want to participate in the open data economy, and then walled gardens start coming up, and that's not a good thing. So that's the kind of balance we need to have. So on one hand, not bad in financial services, not so good in everywhere else, which needs to change.
Wai Hun, do you agree with that?
Actually, because I think your question was related to crypto, I think there was a bit of a scare recently, right, in August in 2021, where this Poly network, it says that what they call it, hackers went in and they stole $600 million worth of cryptocurrencies. Okay, and also now with this, exactly what David talked about, this DeFi, which is decentralized finance. So it allows a lot of programmers to go in and say, I'm just going to start programming anything related to even finance and all that. So, and because these are smart contracts, right? You may get very inexperienced programmers that never really thought of different types of scenarios where all kind of loopholes might come in. And I think that is really the danger moving forward, because the guys that are doing blockchain, they are going to this Ethereum, going to DeFi, they may not be the enterprise guys like us that has figured out, what is required to actually make it really secure.
David, do you care to add on to that?
Nothing too much to add. I think it depends on cryptocurrency specifically, right? It depends on what sort of platform you use. For example, an exchange, centralized exchange like Luno, like Coinbase, we have well-established standards in the industry. We try at our level best to meet international standards as well. So we're not new guys. But when you start moving into newer space like DeFi that just came in very, very recently, that technology is still being tested, right? And most of these technologies always start from somewhere. They're not built for scale. They don't take cognizance of the complexities of having to secure customers' assets, or they may not just have resources because we're a startup, right? So I think that gap is still there, but we're slowly bridging that gap. And I suspect that these guys, given a few years' time, with more support, with more resources, they will get to the level where cryptocurrency exchanges are.
I know we're almost out of time, but I actually do have a couple of questions that I think would be really interesting to address at this point. We've seen mass adoption, of people going digital over the last 18 months. People are talking about how it's been 5 years of advancement pushed into 18 months or whatever the terms are recently. Do you think fundamentally our relationship with money has changed? Now it's majorly digital as opposed to physical. I know that sounds odd, but if you think back to the first time perhaps you held on to 5,000 ringgit and it felt like a big wedge of money. It was something that you could feel, it was tangible, and it was difficult to part with in many places, But now, with the click of a button, that 5,000 ringgit is here, it's there, it's buying NFTs in Roblox or whatever. Has our relationship with money changed? Wai Hun?
Yeah, I do think our relationship with money has changed. And I think the other thing, of course, is there's so much interest now in terms of investment, in terms of how to use your money, and and you're right, we don't really touch money. I mean, it's like now every time someone asks me for cash, I'll ask them, can you just give me your bank account? I'll transfer it. I'm not going out,
Right.
So our relationship with money has changed. If that's your question, but I don't really know, are you asking about impact or what?
No. In general, do you think it's changed? I mean, I think it has for sure.
Yeah. That's why I say it's so interesting. It started with our fiat currency, which means that our physical money that's legal, the legal tender. Fiat means by the government, and then now it's actually moved on to like e-money, and we're just transferring money, and now we're talking about crypto. But crypto, you see, there's actually two movements for crypto. If you look at China, where they're going, right? They banned cryptocurrency in 2019. Okay, and then now they are trying to figure out the digital yuan, and they're going to and what they're going to do is that if they are successful, they'll get everyone to adopt digital yuan, which means that you won't be looking at cash anymore. But your privacy, your security, the government will know every single thing, because this is, unlike decentralized finance, is actually controlled by the governments. And each of these 80% of these governments all over the world are looking at blockchain and this type of stable coin crypto to actually control everything. If that happens, I think everything will change. Like your tax, maybe you don't need to pay tax, they will just deduct it because they know exactly what you're doing at any time, anywhere, So that is the scare. So I think each, I would say, government needs to decide where are they heading towards, because
Right.
it is different,
Yeah. I think China bans crypto every year, don't they, David?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
they do.
I
They love to.
I think
Go for it,
every
Hann.
time you do it, it's an admission you couldn't do it the first time, right? That's kind of
Right,
every time
right.
you ban something.
That's it. I
We
mean,
didn't do it well enough.
Right. Han, do you think our relationship with money has changed then?
Yeah, I'll give the counter positive to what you said, which is if I was holding cash, a lot of it, right, it'd be so easy to get rid of it. Sorry, let me rephrase.
Right.
Meaning it's so much harder to keep track of cash when I have a big wad of it. I go through my daily life, but end of the month, it's gone. It's run before the month, it's run out a lot quicker than I expected, right? Because it was just difficult to keep track of it, right? And having it digitally recorded means that how do I explain this? The relationship with money doesn't change based on the whether it's digital or not. The relationship with money it accentuates based on what kind of relationship you have. So if you had a very good relationship previously, you have even better one, right? And if you had a terrible one previously, it will be even worse, because so the point here is that digitization of money doesn't really change people, doesn't really change your behavior. It just accentuates your behavior. It shows your true behavior. So I think that's kind of counterpoint to what you mentioned earlier.
Interesting take. Yeah. Okay. I'll take that on board and have a think about that. David, just for you, same question.
Yeah. To me personally, I think cash itself is my ex-girlfriend. I think that's the simplest way of saying it, right? And I think COVID has definitely played a huge role to that.
Right. Yeah.
If I just look at myself a year ago, in my wallet, I always carry at least 100 or 200 ringgit, right? Just to go out so that I can pay my, nasi lemak or my chafan in the kopitiam. Now I don't. In my area where I stayed in Kepong, a lot of people have started accepting electronic money through Touch and Go or Boost, and I always use these two e-wallet apps to pay for my meals. I really hate cash. It feels dirty because obviously you become a lot more conscious of well-being due to COVID. But also on the flip side, the upside is by using money electronically, it's allowed you to track your spending behaviors a lot better. A lot of apps have started building all these all these analytical tools for you to track what you spend on, and that's allowed you to really control your financial and also plan for the future a lot better. That also unlocks the next level opportunity, whereby because you're so used to dealing with things in cash, you're more open to also accept innovative solutions or investing tool or products that are all digital, such as cryptocurrency, right? And I think we will move to a point where most people will just do things online, and I'm excited to see that happening in the next 5 years.
Okay, I should be wrapping up now, but I want to ask you one final question. The final question is, and I need you to answer, fairly quickly. In closing, what do you predict to see in the financial space within the next few months, assuming that the pandemic is receding and we're entering into the endemic phase? What do you see happening? Wai Hun, let's start with you.
I think that unlike what Han said, yes, the issuers and the providers may not be ready, but I see there's more and more of them are actually doing a lot of digital transformation. You will be seeing loans online within minutes, but maybe not for all their products. We need to think of what are all the digital loans that are available that you can curate and actually provide to different segments. Once you cluster it, then I think it's quite easy for us to talk about, can I get finance online? I think that will be happening. And of course, things like the eKYC, which means that people will go branchless. You don't really go to branch in order to create an account. All these are actually happening as well.
Wonderful. Han Liew, let's hear from you. What do you expect to see over the next few months?
Okay. Yeah, I think first, for everyone is expecting things to just snap back to normal. Like in 6 months' time, if you're a bank, insurance company, investment house, assuming things will snap back, it's not going to snap back. Sure, many want in person.
Oh. I'm sorry, Han Liew, I think we're just going to have to move on to David at this point because
Yes.
you've frozen. We might be able to come back to you in just a couple of moments. David, can you just pick up and give me the same answer, please?
Yeah.
Your answer to the same question, rather.
Sure. Adoption and continued growth of cryptocurrency in Malaysia is something I look forward to. And that will definitely happen. Even as we speak right now, crypto has rebounded above $50,000, which is a great day milestone for me personally. And I think from that point onwards, once the Security Commission has given out IEO operator licenses for these issuers to then help SMEs and startups to raise funds, I think that will the enablement of capital access, especially from overseas, that will definitely happen, I think, and it will change the fintech scene for good.
Okay. Han Liew, I'm going to give you the final word. I'm just going to quickly try to see if we can get the final word out of you, or whether or not you're going to go crazy on us again. What and the final question was,
let's hope not. So the second thing I want to say was,
let's hope not. Please carry on.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, which is what's going to happen next, right? So I before I got cut off, I think I said don't be surprised if things don't snap back, right? But second thing is the era of walled gardens is over. You can no longer just be a monolith in control of everything, right? You've got to live in an open data environment. That's the only way you're going to provide better services to your customers. So open data meaning be willing to share with other partners to provide better products and services through that sharing of data with the customer's consent as well. So for me, two things. Things are not going to snap back. The era of walled gardens with regards to data is over, right? So just be prepared for that.
Wonderful. Great session, guys. Thank you very much for taking the time to come in and talk to me today. Everybody that sent in your questions as well today, thank you very much for that. And of course, there will be a feedback form that you can fill for us in the comment section below. Please fill it up. It's not all that long. There's only 5 questions in there. And of course, I want to thank the speakers for coming and taking the time to talk with me today, whether or not they've been in and out, like Han Liew from RinggitPlus, like Wai Hun from JurisTech, and of course, David Low from Luno. Thank you so much for all of your time today. My name is Richard Bradbury. This has been the first episode of Futurescapes. It has been the future of finance. I believe next week it is the future of movement. Same time, same place here on the BFM Facebook page. For BFM 89.9, my name is Rich Bradbury.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.